All right, hello and welcome to Business Math. Today we are going to be converting fractions to decimals and to percentages and going the other way. All right, so I know what you're thinking is you're full of the eye rolls with the inequalities and the rational expressions and why do I need to know this and all that good stuff. This is something that is you're going to need to know. Um, Something as simple as this can put you far ahead of others in being able to think, in being able to accomplish projects. This is one of those, yes, you need to do this things. Um, there is a document listed below. I want you to fill that out. Now, here is the trick. I want you to become comfortable with doing the process. So you're going to see a lot of one half, one half, one half. I want you to work through that because I want you to get comfortable with it. Yes, I know you're going to know how to convert one half all the time, but that's the idea. If you can convert something you know, when you get something huge and that looks like it's unmanageable, you're going to be able to do the same process with that big ugly number. So work through the worksheet, do the work in the worksheet, and that's going to allow you to not be afraid when you see something that isn't the one half that you're sick of doing. And quite frankly, I want you to be sick of it. When you're sick of it, you're going to be comfortable with it. So that's exactly where I want you to be. So why do we do one half? Because we can imagine it. So we can imagine one half of a pizza, and that's our fraction. Okay. So we split the pizza in half. That's usually what I do. I eat half pizza. Judge me all you want. It's delicious. Over here is an example of how we can also have 4/8 in this fractional form. And it's exactly one half. Completely different lesson, but I did want to slide it in. Okay, if we're thinking of money, and I'm hoping you have some idea regarding cash. I know it may be not as easy as it used to be because I don't carry cash anymore. But remember when we used to have those little pieces of paper and we had $1. So what's half of $1? 50 cents. This is a 50-cent piece, in case you didn't know. They're not common. And then if we think of a percentage, well, think of like getting a sale, 50% off, which is the same way of saying half of that dollar or one half, like that pizza. Now we need to be able to go in between each one because sometimes, if your preference is you hate fractions, you might prefer to work in decimals. Or if you're at work and your boss says, no, you must work in decimals, you got to convert those fractions, even though you prefer fractions. Likely have to do what the boss says. So how do we go back and forth? And that's the skill that I really want you to learn. Um, it's gonna help you out tremendously. So one half equals one half. This is just another way of saying it. Let's talk about what a fraction is. So in this example, we have a whole. We have two pieces, right? So we have two total pieces, and we put that on the bottom, on the denominator. We want to use the fancy word. We're going to put that at the bottom. But I'm only getting one piece, deliciously huge piece. So how many pieces I'm getting? I'm going to put that on top. That's really all a fraction is what are the total pieces? We put that on the bottom. And what is the piece that I'm getting? We put that on top. 1/2, one half. So that's the big mystery behind fractions. It's like I've told you many a times, I think mathematicians just like to sound smarter. It makes us feel better about being picked on in school all those years. The simple thing is all the pieces on the bottom, the piece that we're considering getting well, however you want to put it on the top. We get 1/2. So again, we can visualize 1/2 when we'll get to it, but like I can't really visualize clearly. I can have an idea of what 25 over 1072 is. That's difficult for me to really zone in on. We're going to start with 1/2 because I can visualize this. I can compare this to different things in the real world. So again, we're going to use 1/2 as an example over and over so you can get comfortable with it so that when the disgusting numbers come up, it's the same process. So let's start taking a look. What if, how do I get from 1/2 the fraction to 0.5 the decimal? Because 0.5, 50 cents, 50 cents, 1/2, half. How do I mathematically get there? So let's take a look. Let's go back to this fraction. Remember, we're doing the whole part into the part we're thinking about. So get your handy dandy calculator, because I know you're going to use a calculator. No, you're probably not going to do this by hand. Should know by hand. Maybe do 1 or 2 by hand, but then get your lovely little calculator. We're going to start off by dividing the piece that we're considering, which is 1, and we're going to divide it by that 2, by the whole part. So taking the part we're considering, the numerator, and dividing it by the total number of parts that are involved, 1 divided by 2. Keep in mind, remember, sometimes we express division by just having that bar, 1 divided by 2. So that's all a fraction is saying. Divide the top part by the bottom part, and if you look at your calculator, you get 0.5. So that's how we convert a fraction to a decimal. We are going to divide the top number by the bottom number, right? Even if it isn't 1 divided by 2, let's just say, and I'm going to throw something in my calculator, completely random, 98 divided by 3,214. Well, that's 0.03. So we're just taking, and it really, and that's how come I probably really annoyed you when we were doing like more arithmetical operations, is the fraction literally says 1 divided by 2. And that's going to give you our decimal. All right, so now let's talk, how do I go from a decimal to a percentage? So what we're going to do now, let's see if I can write. I have a righty screen thing here. So you're going to see my horrible try to write with the mouse thing. I don't know how the Khan Academy dude does it, because I ain't got that skill. So we got point. That's a 5. I can hear you laughing. That's 6. Ooh. Get a writing tablet tomorrow. Some things will be neater. But the important thing is it's decimal. So there's 2 things we're going to do to convert this decimal into a percentage. Okay? So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to move the decimal to, I'm trying to remember. We're going to move it to 2 spaces to the right. So it's already here. So we're going to go 1, 2. And so since we moved that decimal, it's now 50. It's not 0.5, it's 50. And then what we do is we add the percentage sign. And that's all we do. We're going to move the decimal over 2 places to the right and add the percentage sign. That's how we do it. All right. Well, what if we need to go from 50% to a fraction? So this is, again, one of those things I annoy you with is, remember, math is all about balance. We have opposites: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, exponents, square roots, all that beautiful stuff. Now it's going to come into play. Not all of it, but you're going to see why that's actually important. So now 50%, we're at 50%. Well, the thing is, sometimes we need to convert that percentage to a decimal because we actually can't do math with a percent. All right, we have to convert it to a decimal. So we're going to reverse what we did last time. Remember, to go from a decimal to a percent, we moved the decimal over 2 places and added the percent sign. So now we're just going to get rid of that percent sign. We're going to go 2 places to the left. Remember how it was here at 50. We're going back to 1, 2 over there on that side. We just completely lop off the percent sign. We don't need to do any math or anything. We just get rid of it. All right, so now we're back to 50%. Just that time. Well, how do we get back from a decimal to fraction? Remember, the fraction is numerator divided by denominator. What's the opposite of division? Multiplication. So we're going to multiply our decimal line. And so we divided by 2. What happens if we multiply by 2? We get 1. Right? 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 5 is 10. Keep the decimal point is 1. Right? What did we multiply by 2? We get that 1. We put it over on top. We multiply by 2. And a lot of times, if we don't know it, we're just reversing. Okay, the simpler way, that was actually a harder way. The simpler way, again, think back to when we annoyed you with number places. So this is actually going to make it easier. All right, remember our number places. The decimal point actually kind of counts as our 1. And this is in our 10th place. So we're going to take our whatever number is. Oh, still with the horribleness. We're going to do 5. I don't know what I'm doing here. We're just going to put that, bar, that division bar again. Try this again. Oh, right. Just a reminder. See, you don't have to be perfect. So 5 is the actual number in that spot. So we're going to put that on top. Ooh, how is that a 5? Ooh, let's look at that. Yeah. We're going to put the actual number, we're going to put that bar, and we're going to put what place that is. That's the 10th place. Well, 1, 10s, 100. That's why we learned those places. So now we have 5 over 10. But we can reduce that, right? 5 goes into 10 2 times. 5 goes into 5 1 time. But we got back to 1/2. So look at that sheet. Practice going between. And again, I know 1/2 is on that sheet many, 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 many times. And so you can get used to the process. And so when something bigger comes along, for example, like that, 36 over 323, we can still do the same process. So it's still the same process. How do I convert 36 divided by 323 to a decimal? Well, the fraction already says it. I'm using a calculator. Something this big and unwieldy, I would just go ahead and use a calculator. So I'm just going to take 36 and divide it by 323. I'm going to get this huge gross decimal, but we're going to round it. So I have 0.111. So I'm going to round it to 2 decimal places just for ease of this example. So we're now at 0.1. All right, so how do I convert that decimal to a percentage? I'm going to move the decimal point over two places to the right. So 1, 2 is going to give me 11 and add a percentage sign, 11%. So see, even though it was a bigger number, same process. So how do I take 4% going the other way? All right, so let's do that. We get rid of the percentage sign, and we're going to move that decimal place over two places to the left. So 1 puts it in front of the 4. I ran out of numbers, so I'm going to add a 0 and move it to that second space in front of the 0. So now I'm at 0.04. Well, how do I now get that to a fraction? So I'm going to take that number, I'm going to take 4 right now, and I'm going to put it over and put the little fraction bar, the divide sign, however you want to call it. I'm going to put it over the what the number place represents. So in this case, we have the decimal, a 0, and a 4, which means that 4 is in the hundredths place. So I'm going to put 4 over 100. And that's our fraction, but we can reduce it because they're both even numbers. So how many times does 2 go into 4? It goes 2 times. How many times does it go into 100? It goes 50. So we end up with 2/50ths. And imagine a pizza cut up into 50 pieces and you only get 2 slices of that. That's sad. Makes me sad. Might cry. Please, please, please work that worksheet so that you can be comfortable with this skill. And really, there are so many people that will run and scream when they see a fraction or a decimal. If you can be very comfortable with this, you are going to be ahead of the game. And it's something that I know you can do. So practice, try to enjoy, and learn. We'll talk to you later. And you're going to stop recording first.